Welcome back to Movie Summary. Today we are diving into a film called Secretary. In the first part, we met a girl called Lee who was addicted to hurt herself. But then one day, she gets a secretary job and Mr. Gray, her boss, smacks her as punishment, after she made spelling errors when typing his letters. Since then, she has not hurt herself and is now dreaming of Mr. Gray. Another day, she brings him another letter, but there is no spelling mistakes. She seems frustrated, as she really wanted to get smacked. She licks the letter in front of him. He says, "I have to work." At the end of the day, she asks him if he needs more typing. She can come back later, but he tells her good night. Later, Lee and her sister and friends are talking how their boss is trying to sleep with them. Lee says her boss is the best. Her mum receives a call. She cries. Then we see them at the hospital. It's their father, who always had drinking issues. It irritates Lee, who usually hurts herself when in that state, but this time she goes to Mr. Gray's house. He is surprised to see her. She wants him to smack her, but is not able to tell him that. She then leaves. Very emotional. The next day, at the office, she is sad because he stopped smacking her. She kept making mistakes on purpose but nothing. She is trying to seduce, complimenting his tie, but he doesn't care. She is so frustrated she wants to get smacked again. She brings him flowers and hot picture of her. That same night, she decides to smack herself then. But it's not the same, unfortunately. The next morning, she sees a worm, then puts it in one of the letters. He watches her and in the bathroom, he puts himself together, trying to fight the temptation. After work, Lee goes to make out with the man she is seeing, Peter. She tries to make him smack her, but he doesn't get the mess and is confused. He doesn't know what to do. They make love but she is not enjoying it. Only he is. Mr. Gray then finds the worm in the letter. To fight the temptation, he does some pull-ups, but he is losing it, and calls her to his office. She is excited, even though a client is waiting. She enters ready for what's coming. At this moment, her boyfriend Peter comes in. Mr. Gray then tells her to pull up her skirt. She does. Peter then calls Lee. She tells him she won't be able to come to the dinner today. He leaves. She then pull up her skirt. She is scared, but he tells her, "I am not going to make love to you." He looks at it and himself. She is waiting for the smacking but nothing. After done, he goes back sitting on his chair. She is so disappointed. He then gives her more work to do. She goes to the bathroom, whispers his name, but another co-worker is also in the bathroom. Lee puts one of Mr. Gray paper and herself. The other lady hears everything. He realizes there is some white substance on his pants. He tries to clean it. Mr. Gray is mad. He takes all his awards and break them. He then goes to take all the pictures he took from Lee, and burns them. He then types a letter for Lee apologizing for his behavior, but as she arrives, he destroys it. He calls her to bring the scores she showed him when interviewed. She then sees all the broken awards. She asks what happened. He asks her if she plan on getting pregnant. She says no. He looks at her scores. He asks her, "Do you really want to be my secretary?" She says yes. He says, "I like you, but I don't think I will offer you the job of secretary." He is trying to fire her. He says her behavior has been bad, that he is firing her. She screams at him too that, "You are fired." She slaps him. He then starts pointing all the little things he hates about her. He gets close to her. The temptation is big, but he walks away, sits down. He then tells her she needs to go, or he will not stop. She says, "Don't stop." He says, "We can't do this anymore." She puts her hand in his hair. He realizes what he has done was wrong, and she is still fired. He yells at her to get out. Poor Lee is now in tears. She packs her stuff. She leaves in tears, remembering that secretary she saw when arriving for the interview was in the same state. After that, she never tell anyone about it, and pretended to go to work every day, and watched his office from across the street. He hired new secretary. She then seeks people like loving to smack during love. But all these men are now what she wanted. She gave up, and stayed home helping her dad getting better. When one day, Peter proposed to marry her, she says yes because she doesn't know what else to do. She puts on her wedding dress but is emotional. She runs outside with it, arrive at Mr. Gray's office. bursts in her office. He is shocked. She confesses to him that she loves him. She repeats, "I love you." He doesn't believe her. He tries to push her out, but she refuses. She then goes to his desk. He orders her to put her hands on the desk. She says she wants to make love. He tells her to stay in that position until he comes back. He leaves. The night comes, and she is still in the same position for now hours. He sees that, and calls Peter, telling him Lee is at his office. He is watching her, and whispers, "Lee, I love you too." Peter arrives. She is disappointed to see him. He is confused, asking what is she doing? In a very angry tone, she asks him to leave. She says he is trespassing. Mr. Gray is watching it, and is enjoying it. She doesn't want to remove her hand, so he drags her chair out. She slaps him, hits him in the guts, and goes back to the same position. She then tells him, "Peter, I don't want you, so get out." She screams at him. The next day, she is still in the same position, and now peeing on herself. Her mom brings her some food. Peter's parents are there too, and wants the dress back in perfect condition. It's now the night. Many people comes to see her. Even her father is there. The next day, we then see her entire family, Peter and everyone she knows eating in the office, with her still in that position. Mr. Gray is at home, very thoughtful. It's now day 3, and the news are even here, covering this crazy situation. Mr. Gray sees the articles of the news. She writes in the news that she is used to suffer, and wants him to know she loves him. On the night of the 3rd day, Mr. Gray finally arrives back to his office. Everyone gives him the dirty look. He comes, gives her a smoothie as she didn't eat for days. He carries her from the office to the upstairs little apartment he has. She is happy, and finally ready for what's to come. He washes her. For the first time of her life, she felt beautiful. The next day, he is still kissing her. They kiss. The following days, they became a couple. They had a wedding by themselves, where all they did was make love in the forest. After he leaves for work one morning, she takes a cockroach and put it on their perfectly done bed. He leaves for work as she is home waving at him. She then stares awkwardly at the camera, and the movie ends here. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and check our other movies summaries.